I recently got my hands on the Vampire core set for Elder Scrolls Call to Arms a little bit early thanks to the folks over at Modiphius, and so I thought I'd paint the most epic mini in the box, this master form of Lord Harkon. If you like the look of it, by the way, stick around. I'm going to be telling you how you could win a copy of the Vampire core set for yourself later on in the video. So first of all, I primed our vampire friend here in a black primer and then base coated with rust grey from Citadel's air range. Now I'm applying this with an airbrush obviously, but don't let that put you off. I'm actually using a £20 airbrush that I picked up on Amazon and it's doing a pretty fine job. You can actually find out more about the exact airbrush I'm using by clicking the card in the top right corner. If you don't have an airbrush though, we're just looking for a dark blue-grey tone to base coat the skin with here. Next I used Drakenhof Nightshade by Citadel and gave the skin a light wash. We're not looking to apply this too generously, we just want it to add more of a rich blue tone to the skin and add a nice richness in the shadows and recesses of the mini. Once that is dried, we're going to get our cheap airbrush out once more and apply Fenrisian Grey at a 45-degree angle to the mini, just to pick out some of the raised areas and add some contrast. If you don't have an airbrush at home, you could just add a pinch of white to the blue-grey colour you chose to base coat the mini with, and then just dry brush that onto the skin very lightly. To finish the skin, we're going to take some matte white and very lightly just dry brush this onto only the most extreme edges of the mini. So this is like the top of the head, the edges of the wings, the top of the left leg, basically areas where the light may hit it in order to make these points more visible to the eye when we're looking at the miniature. With the skin done, we're on to the other details of the mini, and this part will go in super quick, mainly because this miniature is mostly skin. So first of all, I grabbed some leather brown by Army Painter and painted the loincloth, the cloth areas, basically these cloth areas of the vampire armour. I really need to get better at the names of the clothing on my minis. While that dries, we're going to take Crusted Sore by Army Painter and apply this to the cloak. Now you may need to apply a couple of coats to get this on evenly, don't rush it, don't pile the paint onto your brush, it's okay to take our time, it'll look way better if we do. While that dries between coats, you could take some Gunmetal by Army Painter and paint the metal areas of the armour here on the chest and around the waist. I also applied some Plate Mail Metal by Army Painter to the headpiece just to make it stand out from the rest of the armour. After applying my second coat of Crusted Sore to the cloak, I decided to paint the base while it dried, so I took some Dungeon Grey from Army Painter and applied this to all of the stony areas that we see on the base. Again, you may need to give it a couple of coats to really get even coverage. Now, I usually hate painting things like fire and things like natural or elemental elements can be, in my eyes, just really hard to get right, but we don't learn if we don't try, and I think this time it turned out pretty well. So I started off with Orange Fire from Vallejo, and after I'd gotten a nice even coat with that, I took Aerial Yellow from Citadel and just edge highlighted the flames before giving it a wash with Cassandora Yellow. Could it look better? Probably. Does it look like a dumpster fire? No, and I think that's a win. As we come close to the real tricky part of this paint scheme, I took some Nuln Oil and gave the armour and waist clothing a wash. No need to add the Nuln Oil to the cloak, doesn't really need it in my opinion as the Crusted Sore is nice and dark enough as it is. And then we come to the part I dread, highlighting. I've never been great at highlighting, and the last time I really tried to do it on clothing on my Stormcloaks, it just didn't turn out well at all, but we don't learn if we don't try, and we equally don't learn if we let our failures stop us, so I've been thinking a lot about technique when it comes to highlighting, and I was eager to try it out here, and it actually turned out really well, in my opinion. It looks the way I had hoped it would look, and I'm using Vampire Red from Army Painter for the highlights here, by the way. I'm just taking a small amount of paint on the brush, and I'm just picking out raised areas of the cloth, and just trying to add some luminosity to them to help add some contrast between shadow and highlight. I may actually do a separate video on what has helped me really understand how to do highlighting well and really break down this technique that I'm doing here. If you'd find that helpful, let me know down in the comments. The final touch was to dry brush the base with Army Painter's Ash Grey, just to add some definition to the highlights there. The detail on this mini made it a real treat to paint, and I can't wait to get this faction onto the table. But I've actually got a spare box of these vampire minis to give away to you. So if you want to be in with a chance to win them, there's a link down in the video description to where you can find out more. Just be aware that you have to live in the UK or Ireland to be in with a chance to win them, as I don't want to send them to someone in Europe or the States or farther afield and then they end up getting lost on their way to you, or you have to pay extortionate amounts of customs and taxes on them. Thanks Brexit. Alternatively, if you want more super simple paint guides to help you get your minis to the table, you can check out my Patreon by clicking that little button on the screen there to get a PDF painting guide every month. How cool is that?